Corey Gore Christ, DIEnecology Podcast. I'm your DIEnecologist. We are here with Mike Bailey of Brodequin. So good to have you, man. How are you?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. And Harbinger of Woe came out March 22nd on Season of Mist. I gotta say, it's my favorite record so far this year. I've been waiting, 20 long years for new Brodequin, and you guys definitely just took the throne back. So we're excited. If anyone hasn't
Thanks.
got a
I'm glad you
chance to
dig it.
listen to it, definitely check it out. And I guess before we get into the blood and guts of what we do here, we'll get into a little bit about just the release itself, so we can talk about that.
Sure.
So just a little bit about the record, lyrical themes. It's a pummeling record, man. It's like I couldn't, you know, what to expect from Brodequin, but 20 years later, you just don't, it's just all anticipation. So once I heard the record, I was like, Jesus Christ. I mean, the guys didn't miss a beat. So
Well, luckily, I guess for better or for worse, that's just the way I write music.
yeah,
So, like it wasn't going to come out any other way, you
right,
know?
yeah. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the process. I know you guys dealt with a lot in those 20 years and took a long, break. Um, but were you guys always keeping it on the back burner as a possibility and just waiting things out, or was it more of
I
like,
think at first,
yeah,
I think at first, we thought, hey, we just kept pushing it out and pushing it out, and then eventually it just kind of faded away. I mean,
yeah,
it was always there, but as far as like writing and stuff, like we were always still involved, still going to shows, still looking for new stuff.
yeah,
I was still playing guitar, not the entire time. Actually, there was a there was a period of about 2 years where I actually didn't plug in an electric guitar at all. I played, but I was just like playing acoustic stuff.
yeah, yeah,
And then just kind of out of the blue, we were hanging out one day and listening to Methods of all things.
yeah, yeah,
And and it just kind of the idea just kind of cropped up like, man, we should do another album,
yeah,
you know. And then it just kind of rolled from there.
yeah,
Um, Now, granted, that was probably what, like 2015, 2016, and
right,
it probably took like 2 years to get the ball rolling before we started writing anything. What's funny about that is I actually started writing liturgy stuff before I started writing New Brodequin stuff.
okay, yeah,
So it was like because Jamie was talking to Maddie and he was all stoked on doing another one, and we actually did get together and we played that Las Vegas Fest as
yeah, yeah,
liturgy. That was really cool. If anybody listening has a video of that show, I'd love to see it because on stage it sounded insane. Like it
yeah,
sounded just super crisp.
yeah,
But anyway, yeah, I started writing liturgy stuff in like 2018, and as I was going through the process, I think like the fourth song I wrote, I was like, this doesn't really sound like liturgy. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It kind of sounds more Brodequin-esque. And I played it for Jamie, and he's like, oh yeah, that's definitely a Brodequin song. So I would say like 7 songs into the liturgy stuff,
Yeah,
I kind of shifted my focus to writing new Brodequin stuff. And me and Jamie got together a few times, and I think we kind of combined some ideas, and we did. I think Diabolical Edict was the first song that we
yeah.
did, and Teresiana was the second one. And then something happened. I don't know what. I just freaked out, and I wrote the rest of the album in like a few weeks.
Yeah.
Just banged it out. And then after that, I started working on liturgy stuff again.
Yeah. Yeah, liturgy's sick too, man. You guys got stuff down the pipeline for them as well.
Yeah, full album's done.
Sick.
Actually, just waiting on vocals. Brennan's on that one as well.
Yeah, yeah.
He did a fantastic job. I'm super stoked about it. He's really happy about it. So now we're just kind of waiting on Maddie to see what he wants to do when he wants to record it. I think he's
Yeah.
going to record it. He's got a studio out there. He always goes to. So
Hell yeah. Yeah, Maddie's always sick. He's one of the best for sure. Just absolutely nasty. Huge
definitely,
dude with like the softest voice, but he's got the most brutal vocals I've ever heard. So he's an anomaly, that dude. Uh,
definitely.
yeah, the record fucking rips. Excited for you guys that you got to, you're still here and you put it out. I live in Knoxville myself, so
Oh, cool.
guys have always had a presence here. Um, which is crazy. Death metal hasn't really been a huge thing here, in recent years. So it always blows my mind that you guys came from here and all that because we don't see a whole lot of death metal. It's such a mixed genre kind of city, with what
No, for
goes on.
sure. I think tides might be turning though.
Yeah,
We were at a show. It's probably about 2 years now. It was, I think it's the Concord or Concourse. They moved, like
yeah,
they moved to Broadway,
hmm
and we went down there and saw Immolation and Cannibal and Dark Funeral.
yeah. That was a sick show.
And that show was absolutely bonkers, man.
Yeah,
Like it was, I don't think that they were ready for it because we got there probably like 30 minutes before the doors open,
yeah.
and it was wrapped almost around the building. They were so slow and getting so many people in there that we didn't get in there until Immolation had like two songs left.
Damn.
I don't think that they were ready for that level of turnout, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of tour package was insane anyway, and
Yeah.
we got people here they're hungry for that kind of stuff, and we don't get it a whole lot,
Mhm.
but it's there. As far as like bands and stuff, there's not a lot going on. There's a few. There's guys that have been around since I was doing music then, and that are still playing in bands and ripping it up on stage, and I'm happy for them. But don't see a lot of it as much, but you know.
No. I thought there was a venue that was supposed to start getting some heavier stuff. It's off
Mhm.
Kingston Pike. It's like, I don't know what it used to be. I think it used to be like a yoga studio or something. I forget the name of the place,
Oh,
but
Brickyard.
is that it? Okay.
Yeah, it's like
Uh,
Hamburg Drive, like that area. So they're
yeah, exactly.
actually
Yeah.
getting exhumed and skeletal remains in a couple weeks. So that's going to be nuts because
Oh,
it's like a
wow.
it's like a dive bar. So that's a fun place to see death metal shows. And they've gotten here, little ones here and there, but that's probably one of the best bills they've gotten as far as death metal. So that's gonna
Cool.
be a sick show. But I'll be in Maryland with you guys. So uh,
Oh, that's right.
yeah. So when that's going on, it'll be during that. It'll be like Wednesday the 22nd. So I'll already be
Okay.
up there. But yeah, I guess talk about that too. That's your uh, upcoming show so far.
Yeah, that's the next one that's on the list. That should be really cool. I actually haven't been to a Maryland Fest since they moved out of the Thunderdome.
Oh wow.
So I haven't experienced like their multi-stage setup.
Yeah, yeah.
So that should be a really cool experience. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing killer lineup.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've never seen 1349 before, and I'm just totally melting
Oh
down.
yeah.
I'm super fanboy over that.
Yeah,
Like, oh
yeah.
my god, that should rule.
Yeah. I think my first year I went was 2013 and I've gone pretty much every year since. There's been a couple of years I didn't get to go. Um, but it's cool, they've changed it back and forth. They used to have the Edison lot, they've kept that, then brought it back, and now they're just keeping everything in the area where the bars are. So there's like Ram's Head and Soundstage are really close together. Soundstage has like more of the death metal grindcore bands there, and then Ram's Head's more like a bigger bar venue, so it has more like more of the headliner bands, a lot of the black metal bands, all that'll play there. And then that now they have this outdoor stage right there that they kind of put in a couple years ago, and a lot of the headliners play there. Like a couple of years ago, Obituary played there, and this was when they, right after COVID, so they still had like they were trying to keep capacity levels on the outside, and it was like
Hmm.
pouring rain, and we were like by the barricade, we're just waiting on people to get in, and then eventually there was had to be thousands of people behind me, and they just said fuck it, and they started just they just barreled through the barricade and went into the show. So I was, I
Wow,
kind of had to get forced in with the horde behind me. It was pretty crazy overall. So
that
always love
sounds like it.
Maryland and the metal takeover of the city. It's always fun. Just
Yeah, it's
see.
pretty wild. I never would have assumed Maryland would be like a place for a show that size.
Right,
Like
yeah.
when we had first, because we did the first one and the second one, and I think we were at the third and fourth one, just like set up a booth and
Yeah.
hung out and stuff like that. The venue did change beyond. It was Thunderdome, I think, for the first two,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it went to a place that I can't remember the name of.
Hmm.
Speaking of rain, that all the vendors were outside,
Yeah.
and it started pouring.
Yeah.
And actually Necroharmonic saved the day. He was
Hmm.
walking around. He was walking around with like sunscreen and tarps, you know, helping everybody out. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Nice. But yeah, that's gonna be a sick time. Looking forward to it. Last year they had like a hiatus kind of seemed like they weren't going to keep going, and now they're back full swing, already announced next year. I think they started doing like more Death Fest. They did like Netherlands Death Fest, they do California, and they did a couple other ones. So they kind of just shifted it back to just California Death Fest and Maryland. So hopefully they
Did
keep
they
it
do one in
running. It's
Canada? I
Yeah,
thought they did a
maybe. And they
Canada
did a
one too.
London,
Yeah.
maybe London Death Fest.
Oh wow.
They did quite a few of them, like for a couple of years, and then you can tell they were like they took a break, and now they're like, yeah, California, Maryland, we're gonna keep it at that, and hell of a lineup to come back. So looking forward to
Hmm.
that and finally seeing you guys. And um,
Speaking of which, I'm pretty sure we're at Soundstage at 11:30
yeah,
on Friday.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be insane. I love Soundstage. It's just no barricade. People go fucking nuts. You never know what to
Cool.
expect there. Um, I've seen
So it's like a more intimate setting. It's not
oh
a
yeah.
huge stage. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's where the like I said, most of the grindcore and like straight death metal bands play, and it's always insane. Like I've seen Devourment there and Mortician, and people were bringing like blow up dolls and throwing them around, and people go absolutely nuts. Like it's a
Awesome.
cool. It's probably my favorite part of Death Fest is going to the soundstage shows that they do there.
Good
So
deal.
it's gonna be a hell of
Well,
a
we're
time.
definitely looking forward to it.
Oh yeah.
It should be a good time.
Think people are waiting on it. They're gonna show up for you for sure. That's gonna be fucking nuts. Good time for me to see you guys
Yeah.
my first time. Um,
Yeah. Well, you'll get to hear quite a few of the new ones. We've
yeah,
had a lot of requests. People are really stoked on the new stuff, which is great to hear. You
yeah,
don't know what the reaction is going to be after not putting anything out for so long.
right.
You know.
Yeah, and it's like I said, I've heard a lot of shit this year. A lot of really, really good stuff has come out so far, but I gotta say this album's definitely my favorite so far. It's just
Nice.
rips. Um, but we'll get into the other half of this podcast. We'll actually talk about, how death kind of really influences us and how we're able to cope with it and really turn it into like an art form where it's positive, because it's all around us, something we can't control, but everyone has a different medium or coping mechanism to do that. I've always found it interesting how the genre of death metal is such a positive release for the imaginations of death. People on the outside are like, these people are fucking nuts, which maybe we are a little
Right.
bit, but even with the new album itself, it talks about um the beauty of death and which I think is a really cool concept. Um so to your best of your abilities, talk a little bit about that, your influences, experiences you have that kind of, you know, uh influence you and channel this kind of music and how you're able to translate it.
As far as musically, I can't speak. I guess I could, but I don't want to steal anybody's thunder here. Jamie is the lyrical master of
Yeah, yeah, of
Brodequin.
course.
He's the huge history buff, and while I enjoy it, I would do it a disservice because I couldn't go to the level of detail that he could lyrically.
Right.
Musically, I guess what influenced me is just that it's that same cliched story of where you're a kid and you hear some metal and you're like, that's great. And you keep looking for the next thing, like,
Yeah.
what's the next thing? You know what I mean? Like, oh, Iron Maiden's awesome. Wait, Anthrax is pretty fast, oh God, and then you just keep going and going and going. And we were really, really fortunate that, uh, Jamie, we moved around a bunch. And
Yeah.
when we lived outside of Pittsburgh, and when we lived outside of Pittsburgh, Jamie ended up running into a guy named Jeff,
Hmm.
and he was in a band at the time. He was in a band called Sathanos,
Yeah.
and he was into all the death metal stuff. So it was like that's what we were looking for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was the one. And I think Jamie came home with like Sepultura, Schizophrenia on cassette,
Yeah. Hell yeah.
and something else. And I can't remember what it was at the time. It might have been Altars of Madness, but
Yeah.
it was somewhere around that era. And it was
Hmm.
like we just went we just went ape
Yeah.
over the stuff, you know, and it just kept going and going and going.
Hmm.
And those are still influential.
Yeah. Of
I was like an instant Napalm Death fan, and I think
course. Yeah.
that was probably what drove me the most was just absolutely huge Napalm Death fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I know they get a lot of flack because they've changed up their style quite a bit over the years. There's you got all the diehards like, oh, if it's not Scum, it's not Napalm Death. It's like, whatever. They put out amazing stuff, and it's just in a different form.
Yeah. Yeah, like I like the Code
So,
is Red. That's like my favorite album. But I've liked pretty much every album they've ever done. I've enjoyed it. They're
mhm,
the type of musicians that can push things in any direction they want, really. They've
yeah,
influenced so many subgenres within death metal itself and just grindcore, all that stuff. If there's any band that can just put a record out, they don't give a fuck what it sounds like. It's just they're gonna put it out. They can do it.
right.
They're just
No,
versatile.
they're great. And I guess kind of a side effect of that is, you were talking about kind of the release or channel it in something positive.
Yeah.
It is a really good way to get out your frustrations when you're just playing until your fingers start to, the skin starts to fall off,
Yeah, for sure.
So that was definitely a help over the years. And what's really neat is I didn't realize it would have this effect on people, but I know I have, and Jamie has as well, received emails from people and saying things like, man, I really appreciate your music. It's got me through some tough times. I
Yeah.
never thought that it would have that kind of effect on people,
Yeah.
you know, and that's a huge compliment.
Yeah. And a band named after a medieval torture device, can have such a positive
Right.
effect on people. That's kind of what I'm
Exactly.
trying to get to the bottom of, because I myself, yeah, I can talk about where I started listening to metal and like how it drew me in because it just kind of did,
Hmm.
you just when you hear something and it hits you the way it does, that's it. So mine was like Arise by Sepultura. The second I heard that, I was like,
Oh,
that's it.
fantastic album.
Yeah, I was like, it's hitting me the way that I guess my brain chemistry wanted, and haven't really looked back since then. Um, but you just don't know how you get into the realm of these kind of lyrical themes and just the extreme music and how it can just I don't know. You have fun with it. You have fun with
Mm.
embracing death and torture, but not in a way where you would do it. It's already happening, you
Yeah,
know?
I think that's I think that's what I guess we'll call them the normies. They don't really get.
Yeah,
It's not like we're talking about acting these things out. None of us
right.
have any fantasies to kind of do this in reality. It's just it's
Sure.
subject matter. It's
Yeah.
art form. It's
Mhm.
uh, it's kind of taking a step back and being like, wow, I can't believe this actually happened. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And kind of kind of going over it.
Right.
But it's funny. I am to the point, and I've actually been this way for many many years. I don't even tell people I play
Yeah.
because that leads into the conversation of what do you play.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
eventually they might want to hear it, and I don't want to go down that road. You know what I mean? I don't like. I'm not explaining this to you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You either get it or you don't get it. And if you don't get it, I don't care. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you work with people or this and that. I've had to do the same thing where it's like, oh, is it kind of like this band? And like, I don't know.
Right.
It's fine. I'm just playing a band. 'Cause that's
Mhm.
it. You'll figure it out.
Exactly.
If you stalk me and find it, you can listen to it. And just don't ask
Yeah.
questions.
Right. Inevitably, you get the when you do decide to engage, which I do not anymore.
Yeah.
You get the oh, kind of like Metallica. It's like
You're right.
well,
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
not at all. In no way is this like Metallica.
Yeah. Especially you heard Metallica in the 80s, you can't fathom something like Brodequin to come out of that. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
You just have to hear it to believe it, I guess.
Yep.
People that have never heard that shit. But yeah, it's just always fascinated me. Because I mean, even I've been a huge history buff myself, and just the idea of methods of torture and shit like that, it's just fascinated me, but not to a point where I condone it. It's just the level of barbarity the human nature can take people is it's just fascinating, really. But
It's really incredible. And
yeah,
really, I don't think that we've changed all that much.
yeah,
And now everybody wants to be, civilized and virtuous, but
right,
it's just different methods.
yeah.
It's just different methods.
It seems cleaner, more humane, but it's more of the same, just not
Right.
just not a public display the way they used to do it. But yeah,
Hmm.
no, it it's always just been a cool concept to me. I've been a horror fan. That's a big channel for people too to like metal because it's already got
Oh,
the
yeah.
subject matter there, it's pretty easy transition. But for some people, I just to explain to normal people like this isn't glorifying anything. We just like brutal shit and we can have fun with it. But it's
Well, it brings up an interesting question, especially when people talk about the vocals.
yeah,
It's my understanding. It's always been that the vocals are really just another instrument. Like
yeah,
you have your regular songs where someone's actually singing, but in extreme
exactly.
music, it's just a different instrument. And
Yeah,
if people don't really understand it,
yeah,
I would pose the question, have you heard the music?
yeah.
What on earth are you supposed to do over this music? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
With some a cappella shit going, is that really going to cut it?
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it all makes sense, and it's really the only genre of music you can really, you know, um, positively release anger and pain and hardship, stuff like that. So, um, it's a good thing it's there. It's just it's always been something I try to figure out if the people within the bands actually get the release that way too, if they've experienced death and tragedy, if this is something that's really helped them, like it does the people that listen to it, which I'm assuming, it does, of course, channel
Yeah,
in,
I would say
channel out.
playing in general, you
Yeah.
know, even if it's not like working towards something,
Yeah.
even if it's just playing,
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest detriment to new Brodequin music is I will plug in and start playing, and before I know it, it's like an hour and a half, and I haven't written anything, but I'm just playing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it is a really good, what a great hobby,
Yeah.
because you're so connected to it. It's different than, not to shit on people that play golf, knock yourself out, but it's just a lot different. You
Yeah.
know what
Yeah.
I mean? When you're actually sitting down with an instrument and here's this inanimate object and I have to make it do something,
Yeah.
you know, it's just great.
Yeah. And I know you've guys dealt with loss yourself. You guys took a long time after all that before you guys started writing again. So in that time, were you guys even trying to write, or you just took a complete break from it?
No, we weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
I mean, music wise, we weren't doing
Yeah.
anything. I mean, we were still involved and whatnot in like a fan capacity.
Sure. Yeah.
But as far as sitting down to write anything or getting together, no. I mean, we hung out because me and Jamie, we hang out all the time. Not as much
Sure.
so anymore because I live a lot further away now. But
Yeah.
for all of our lives, really,
Yeah.
we've hung out a ton. So that never stopped. And the giant binge listening sessions of new stuff and all that. But as far as like sitting down and getting songs together, no. Like I
Yeah.
mean, I wasn't writing anything at all.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that just stopped.
Yeah. And I don't blame you. I've had similar things happen, and it's hard to really get inspired that way. You just have to work through it and try your best. Sometimes it takes longer than you think, or you don't know if it's going to end, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
it just kept getting pushed to the back burner,
yeah,
when everything's going well, it's really easy to sit there and spend time on something that, I mean, let's face it, it's death metal. It's nobody's, full-time job. It's not like we're
right.
relying on this to make a living, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So really it gets regulated to a hobby. And
Hmm.
when there's so much going on in life and it kind of trying to pick up the pieces of all these things that happen. It's bad enough when like one major life changing event happens,
Sure.
and to get one like a year away, and then one like 2 years after that,
Yeah.
you really just don't even think about it. You
Yeah.
don't sit there and think about, oh, what am I going to do to pass the time? It's like, well, I got a bunch of crap I have to deal with. I
Yeah.
probably have to rearrange my life and kind of approach this new situation and kind of
Yeah.
learn how to get through this,
Yeah.
and you don't even think about it.
Yeah. I mean, no one teaches you, and if they do, there's something you just
Oh no,
unfortunately have to experience no matter what,
right,
and
right. So much of life is like that. You can read all you want, but
mm,
experience is king.
yep. That's the, knowledge of it and trying to figure out the best way to deal with it. Music certainly helps. It's a good way to channel emotion. But sometimes all you have is yourself kind of thing too.
Hmm.
So it's
I would
good to
say music definitely does get me through a lot of stuff. Not necessarily the playing of it, but it's
right.
just a constant. I mean, I
Yeah,
always have it around.
it's true.
Really never go anywhere without it. Like
Yeah,
I keep a thumb drive in my car with like 2,500 songs on it,
yeah,
that I can just keep on random,
yeah,
So I've always got something.
yeah. It's therapy in a way. It's a good release. It's you know something we all have and we have in common. That kind of brings people together too. That's the good part of this genre too. Is just I feel like a lot of the fans are people that are different, kind of weird. Uh, nerdy for sure. But they have a place, and can channel their emotions. And some of the happiest people I've met are just death metal fans. So it's kind of crazy to think about, but in a way, it's not. They go out there and
From the outside, I could see that. Yeah.
yeah,
You
yeah,
look at the album covers alone on most bands, and normal person would just be horrified.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. And here I was at 10 putting the Butchered at Birth album cover on my wall or something. My mom comes in and
I was
is
in the
like,
same boat.
yeah, she's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is that? I was like, that's
We were
Cannibal
really
Corpse.
lucky that our parents were our parents were totally cool that
Yeah.
they got it right away what it
Hmm.
was. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
were like, it's this fantasy, silly, kind of like a horror movie thing.
Yeah.
No big deal. And that was super helpful because I couldn't imagine having to deal with that
Yeah.
angle. It's already a different enough thing without having, parental pressure saying, "Ooh, this
Sure.
is,
Yeah.
devil music or whatever."
Without feeling like, we have something wrong with us. Like, well, I think to a degree, maybe, but it's not like it's not like we need to be locked up or anything. we,
Right.
we have the outlet right here. It's just, it's a little different. It's more
Hmm.
in your face and reality, and also fantasy, whatever. But it's fun. It's weird to say, but death metal's fun. The gore and
It
brutality, the way
is.
they portray it's fun. It's not, because if in real life, it's fucking horrifying.
Exactly.
It's not fun anymore. It's like this is
Hmm.
real. But when you have a zombie eating his own guts, or something like that, or
Classic.
it's fun. Then it becomes more campy, more horror, and even like comic, if you will, comic style.
Hmm.
Uh, Brodequin talking about real shit. History is exciting, and it's fascinating to learn about. So when you have bands like you guys, or even like Nile, for instance, you're getting like historical, you know, exaggerations and real time things that happen, put
Oh
into
yeah,
a,
there's definitely a mix of both. I
yeah,
mean, none of us were there, and 1400s, 1500s, so
yeah,
we kind of have to take your word, take people's word for it.
right,
And if today is any indicator, you see how so many things are dramatized.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
don't believe me. I don't believe for a second that horrible things didn't happen,
right,
but it comes down to what happened and to what extent.
yeah. It's an
And
interpretation,
we'll
more or
we'll
less.
never know. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll never know. But
So
so
the closest we get, you watch the History Channel or listen to Brodequin, you'll come pretty
there you go.
close.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, um, the album's fucking sick, and definitely my favorite one so far. I'm happy you guys are back. It's been 20 years, so I think the reception I've had around my friends and just seeing online and everywhere else, that everyone really loves the record as well. So, you know,
Yeah, the reception that I've seen has been absolutely ridiculous. Like I
yeah,
had no idea, no
yeah,
idea. And it was the same way before the album came out when we were going and playing shows.
yeah.
Like we went down and played the Gordon the Heart of Texas Fest,
Hmm.
and I guess that was. I'm trying to think if that was before or after we did that little EP. I can't remember,
Yeah,
but people were freaking out. I mean,
yeah.
so many people came up and talked, and they just talked my ear off about the old albums, and I was just like, "Wow, I can't believe you care." You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fuck. I mean, even at the time, I was like, "Is anybody really listening to this?" Oh, what the hell? Let's play it anyway. You know what I mean? Uh,
Right.
but people are loving it, which is
Oh yeah.
great. It's super rewarding.
Yeah. especially, what you guys have been through and as long as it's been since you guys came back. It's like I said earlier, it's like you never left. It's just here we are again, and people were waiting, so that's pretty cool.
which is crazy, and I love it.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it
Yeah.
more than you know. We definitely appreciate it,
Yeah.
and it's nice to see that reaction of people are hearing it, and it's like, wow, they really never stop. It's just a better production now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it
Exactly.
really is. You know what I mean,
Yeah.
I guess there's a few different elements, but not really. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Slow down a little bit, layer a few guitars on there, but it's still us.
Yeah. It's nasty, and I think the death metal world has been lacking without you. So it's good to have you back. And look forward to seeing you guys soon and what's next for you. You have anything coming up after Maryland?
We have a show in Indiana that I can't remember the name of. Uh, there's like a 1 day fest in Indiana, and I
Okay.
cannot remember the name of it, but we're playing that, and
Okay.
it's November,
Okay.
like November 1st, might be September. I don't know, man. Like
I'll throw it on
when
the
it comes
video.
when it comes to booking and stuff,
Yeah.
like I, I'm really just kind of like, I don't know. I'm more like yay or nay. Like, here's my
Yeah.
opinion on it. You know what I mean? Usually Jamie will approach me about it. Like, he'll send me and Brennan a
Yeah.
text or something. Like, hey, we got this. What do you think? And we'll kind of get the lowdown. But
Hmm.
I'm just like, I'll show up and play.
Yeah.
Uh, tell me when and where. I'll
Yeah.
be there. So I don't know. For some reason, it just doesn't stick in my memory. Like, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. I swear.
Right. Yeah, I'm the same way. I actually scheduled, the two interviews today, and then I forgot I had another one in between. So I was like, well, shit, I guess I got three interviews today. I didn't put that middle one on my calendar, so I was lucky that I checked it out and remembered. So
Yeah, this was
memories.
kind of last minute for me.
Yeah.
I had heard, I think Jamie was initially going to do it, but he couldn't do it, and
Yeah.
then Brennan was going to do it, and I was like, well, shit, I'm not. In the evenings, I generally don't have anything going on. I'll do it.
Yeah.
What
Hell
the
yeah.
hell? I didn't know you were in Knoxville. That's funny. We could have done it
Yeah.
Eastern time.
Right. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you either way, man. And like I said,
That's
the
no big
album's
deal, dude.
killer. Proud of you guys. Happy for you guys. Glad you're back, and we'll definitely see you in Maryland. Excited to finally see you guys and represent Knoxville while I'm there. I guess we got a couple other people coming from here too, so we'll
Oh, that's cool.
definitely show out. Um, but yeah, man, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your time and for coming on last minute and doing this with me.
Ah, anytime, man. I really appreciate it. I guess it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, I'm surprised anybody noticed. You know what I mean? Like, we've
Right.
been doing this for a long time, stopped for a long time, and all of a sudden, like, here we are.
Yeah.
And people want to hear about it. People want to hear about it. I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Hope you have a good rest of your night, and we'll see you in a couple weeks up in Maryland, man.
Yeah, I'll see you then, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank you so
again.
much.